Hello, my name is Lisa O'Connell and I'm going to take you through a presentation on academic writing. Academic writing is a formal style of writing and it's generally written in a more objective way. It focuses on facts and not unduly influenced by personal opinions. It is used to meet the assessment requirements for a qualification. The publication requirements for academic literature, such as books and journals, and documents prepared for conference presentations. In order to meet the requirements of your course, it is likely that you'll have to produce some written work to meet the assessment requirements of your programme. In this context, writing that is completed for assessment and certification purposes is regarded as academic writing. The purpose of a piece of academic writing is to communicate the information that you've researched, processed, discussed and analysed in a way that the reader can understand and also in a way that meets the purpose for which the writing is being completed. When writing to meet the requirements for assessment, the writing must be presented so that it is clear, concise, objective, understandable and informative to the reader. You should also acknowledge where you got the information and research that you used in your academic writing. It is important to remember, good quality academic writing should be understandable to everyone who is likely to read it, clearly communicate relevant information, minimise the use of jargon or buzzwords, be concisely written and keep to the key points, be focused on providing information and presenting facts, analyse the findings of primary or secondary research, include objective reflection, present different points of view, some for and some against the argument, make sure that each point of view should be supported by research, avoid broad, sweeping or generalised statements, and acknowledge sources. So these are the stages of academic writing: getting started on the draft, writing the draft, reviewing the draft, editing and proofreading the draft, and then presenting and submitting. So I will take you through the following 5 parts to help you in this writing process: planning, drafting, reviewing the draft, editing and proofreading the draft, and presenting and submitting. So first we will cover the planning. Consider the following when you are given an assignment: what you have to do, how you should do it, what you have to produce, how it will be marked, and when you have to submit it. When given assignment instructions, one must be focused on the verbs used, as this will determine the detail required. For example, list requires you to formulate a list. Explain requires you to go into more detail. Who are you writing for? Although this is usually the person who gave you the assignment that will be correcting your work, it is important to remember that others, such as staff within Forus training aiding with assessment, or external auditors or authenticators, may also view your work. Ensure that you stay on task and focus on the question at all times. Brainstorming can help. It can generate as many ideas as you can. Avoid criticising any of the ideas put forth, particularly if brainstorming as part of a group. Attempt to combine or improvise upon previously generated ideas, and encourage the generation of wild or novel ideas. Use Think Outside the Box, adapted from Osborne, 1957. Mind mapping. Place the topic at the centre of the page. Work outwards to map all your ideas around the topic, like the 3 branches, each branch representing a key point and can be elaborated on within more branches. Use lots of colours and images to connect ideas and concepts. Ensure that the branches are organised in a logical sequence to help with the coherence of your piece. Keep referring back to the topic or question at the centre of your mind map, as it is the core of your assessment. Research. Once you've identified the areas associated with your topic, you're ready to begin your research. Before you begin, you must consider that it will help you identify relevant sources and focuses focus on your research. So what am I looking for? Current events, where I'm likely to find it, newspaper or online news feeds. Statistics can be found on government census data or Economic and Social Research Institute are good sources. Scholarly literature and theories can be found in academic articles, periodicals or books. Commercial products, information on these can be found on company websites, patents and standards, and local history can be found at local libraries, government offices and local newspapers. When researching, it is also important to consider how much information you will require. For example, you will need to think about what sides of the argument you need to consider, if you need to compare information, if you're required to discuss a topic, and how deeply you need to delve into your topic. Always refer back to your assessment if in doubt. There are two primary types of research. Primary research. This is information that is gathered firsthand by you. That's why it's called primary research, the researcher. It can include surveys, interviews, and experiments. The two types of primary research are quantitative, where you explore or measure patterns. It generally looks at to what extent or how many. It can measure the data and quantify a problem relating to a specific topic. Or qualitative explores people's attitudes or opinions towards a specific topic or program, such as the what, why, when, where, and how. It provides insight into a problem and can reveal patterns. So if you are doing primary research on town planning, for example, quantitative information might explore how many cars pass through a particular area over a particular period, but it's what extent and how many, it's measurable. Whereas qualitative data might be derived from doing interviews with local pedestrians or car users, and that would get their opinion towards a specific topic. So they're the two forms of primary research. Secondary research is information gathered from existing material, that is, previously gathered and presented by someone else. It can include books, brochures, newspapers, and the internet. Gathering data. So, primary research in terms of gathering data could be a focus group discussion. A small group is selected to discuss a topic or a subject. An interview. Question and answer sessions conducted with an individual or group. Observation, taking careful notes of an event or an activity as it happens. Or a survey, usually involve a questionnaire to gather information from a sample of the population. Secondary research, however, is research that you're looking at done from other people. So it would be encyclopedias and books, reliable websites, such as government and education agencies, the Central Statistics Office, libraries, reports, brochures or leaflets. How do you evaluate information sources? It's important that you can discern whether the information is reliable. Is it, in fact, opinion, theory or suggestion? Is the information up to date? Are the ideas backed up by research or just widely accepted? And is this information substantiated? It's important that information has the following benchmark. So, currency. When was the information published or posted? Has it been updated and revised? And how current are the references? The relevance of the information. Does the topic relate to your assessment? Is it at an appropriate level for your assessment? How does it compare to other resources you've looked at? Authority. Who is the author, publisher or source? Is the author qualified to write on this topic? What are their credentials? Does the URL give information about the source? Accuracy. Is the information supported by evidence? Is the web information error-free? Does it contain any grammatical errors? Purpose. What is the purpose of the information? Is it trying to teach, inform, sell, entertain, or persuade? Is there evidence of biased propaganda? These are the things that you will have to consider when looking at a source of information. So next we have the drafting. What is a sentence? A sentence is a group of words put together in a way that expresses an idea. It always begins with a capital letter and ends with a full stop, question mark or exclamation mark. They should include a subject, who or what you're talking about, and a verb describing an action or state. There is not a set limit on the number of words in a sentence, but be careful that your sentence is clear and concise as possible. So types of sentence. Here we give some examples. Simple sentences, a single independent clause like I am the oldest in my family. Compound sentences, two independent clauses joined by a conjunction. My sister is always the first person to wake in our family and usually the last one to sleep. Complex sentences, an independent clause and one or more dependent clauses, like I finished my study while my friend ate her dinner. Compound complex contains three or more clauses, of which at least two are independent and one is dependent. For example, you can write your assignments, but using your computer is better, as you can fix your mistakes. Problematic sentences are outlined below. One type is run-on sentences. These are sentences that are not separated appropriately. For example, I enjoy baking from a recipe as I find them enjoyable and easy to follow. It should read, I enjoy baking from a recipe. I find them enjoyable and easy to follow. Better split in two. The next type we show you here is sentence fragments. Unfinished sentences that do not contain a complete idea. For example, I don't think I'll be able to attend the concert because I will be working. That shouldn't be two sentences. It should read, I don't think I will be able to attend the concert because I will be working. The next type is rambling sentences. Many clauses often connected by a conjunction, such as, we went to holidays to Spain and then we visited an amusement park and then we had dinner at a hotel and then we watched a movie on the television. Should read, we went on holidays to Spain, we visited an amusement park and afterwards had dinner at a hotel. We then watched a movie on the television. What is a paragraph? A paragraph is a series of sentences that are organised coherently and generally relate to a single idea. They divide your writing into topics or key points. They are organised as follows. The topic sentence informs the reader of what the paragraph will be about. Support sentences. These contribute to your ideas, including examples, and are in a logical order. And concluding sentences. These are used to conclude a paragraph. There are many ways to summarise, such as a recap sentence or a lead on to the next paragraph. So here's an example. The topic sentence is exercise is one of the most effective ways of improving our mental health. Then we have three supporting sentences. Firstly, physical exercise can counteract the symptoms of depression and contribute to improved mood as exercise releases chemicals that regulate mood and sleep. Additionally, exercise can help people cope in a healthy way when presented with mental or emotional challenges in life. Exercise is a far better alternative to alcohol and drug use or other negative behaviour. Hannes, Krondijk and Moose, 2006. Finally, participating in physical activities can offer opportunity for interactions with people and can expand a person's social support networks. Feeling socially included is an important factor in a person's quality of life. Higgins, 2008. Then we have a recap. Clearly, the positive effects of exercise indicate that participation should be encouraged. Or transition. While there is much research on the benefits of exercise, there are also studies that claim that too much exercise can have a negative impact on health. Transition phrases or words allow you to move logically and smoothly from one sentence to the next. The following cases include examples of words that can be used. To show similarity, again, also, equally important, furthermore. If you wish to give an example, for instance, in fact, or to illustrate. To compare, we have similarly, likewise, equally, correspondingly. To contrast is although, yet, despite, instead, however, or on the contrary. To conclude is to conclude, thus so, to sum up, or as a result, or to show time, as soon as, afterwards, shortly, thereafter, until. To show pace or direction, above, below, here, nearby, or opposite. Punctuation is used by writers to help clarify meaning and create emphasis within the writing. It tells the reader how the text should be read and what words to emphasize. So we have the full stop to mark the end of a sentence, the comma used to mark a pause in the sentence or to separate ideas or elements, colon used to precede a list of examples or explanations, semicolon used to separate phrases in a list or connect two independent clauses. It is stronger than a colon, but not as strong as a full stop. Hyphen used to join two or more words together. A dash used to place emphasis on the text after or before the dashes indicates that a pause or indicates a range. Parenthesis used to separate information that is not essential for the sentence. There is less emphasis on the words. Exclamation mark used to add emphasis or to exclaim. Question mark used to ask a question. Apostrophe used to show ownership or when a letter is omitted. Paraphrasing and summarising. Paraphrasing is when you take an author's information, ideas or suggestions and put them into your own words. Quotation marks are not necessary for paraphrasing, but you must indicate to the reader the source of your information. Summarising is a brief statement of the main points of a piece of work. You can refer to someone else's information, idea or suggestion without using direct quotation. It will still be necessary for you to cite and reference a source. It's important to think about which person in which you're going to write your work. There's the first person. This is in the I or we perspective. We use this when we're talking about ourselves and use the first person pronouns. This includes me, myself, or mine, or I, etc. The second person, this is in the you perspective. This view belongs to the person being addressed. It uses a second person pronouns such as you, yourself, yourselves, etc. The third person, this is the he, she, they, it perspective. This is a viewpoint and it belongs to the person being talked about. And it can include naming people. For example, Mary said that. It uses the third person pronouns such as him, her, they, them, etc. Using graphs or graphics. At various points, it may be necessary to use images, figures or tables to display information. These are only to be used if they back up your statements or ideas and should be located where it is relevant so it is easier for the reader to view. Images you find on the web are subject to copyright and cannot simply be copied and pasted. You must include a source of the image and you must never use copyrighted material without acknowledgement. Some helpful tips in labelling or figuring your tables are to give the figure or table a title that clarifies what the idea is about, and give the figure or table a title that follows the order it appears. For example, Figure 1, Figure 2, Chart 1, Chart 2, And if you're using Microsoft Word, there are helpful tools to be able to enable you to do this. The structure of writing. So when you're writing a piece, it's important that it remains logical, coherent, and on task to the assignment. To aid you with this, the following provides the recommended structure your piece should follow. Introduction. This is where you state what you're going to say and how you will say it. This section should be at least 10 to 15% of the word count. The main body. Here you must identify the main points to be argued or discussed, backing them up with relevant examples and reference sources. This section should be 50 to 70% of the word count. Then you have some examples here of the previous slide. So some phrases that you can use in the introduction are in the past 10 years or the past X number of years have seen, or in recent years there has been, etc. In the main body, some useful phrases include more recent arguments include, or research reveals that, or the most interesting result is. When writing an argument, it's particularly important to establish your opinion, giving examples to back yourself up. So give a clear line of research and acknowledge the different positions in the argument. Then we have conclusions, recommendations, and bibliography or references. So in the conclusion section, you would summarise what you have said and draw conclusions from your argument in the main body. You should not include any new information here. The section should be 10 to 20% of the word count. Recommendations, if required, you should make sensible and realistic recommendations, which should relate to the main body and conclusions. This should be 0 to 15% of the word count. Your bibliography and references. You must reference all the sources cited in your written assignment using the appropriate referencing system, and this does not form any part of the word count. Some examples of phrases that you can use for conclusions are this assignment has explored, or the results suggest that, or it can be concluded that. Critical thinking is a useful tool when writing a piece. It requires us to use higher order skills, such as skills that require deeper thinking than our everyday thinking. It involves the following process. Remember to be able to define and duplicate facts and concepts. Understand, to be able to explain ideas or concepts. Apply, use the information in new situations. Analyse, draw connections among ideas. Evaluate, justify a stand or a decision. Create, produce new or original work. Some helpful phrases include, the author offers no explanation for X and Y. Or the study would have been more interesting if it included. Or a recent study by Z cast doubt on W's argument. These are really useful ways of introducing critical thinking into your work. Now we are ready to review the draft. It's important that you leave enough time for yourself to review your work as a whole and make the necessary changes before you submit. Many drafts may be required before your work is ready to hand in. Here are some tips to follow to aid you with your reviewing your work. After you've finished writing your piece, take a break to clear your head and renew your focus. Print a copy of your assignment rather than read it off the computer. It's often easier to read computer text rather than handwritten text. Why review your work? It's often important that you leave enough time for yourself to review your work as a whole and make the necessary changes before submission. Many drafts may be required before your work is ready to hand in. Here are some tips to follow to aid you with reviewing your work. After you've finished writing your piece, take a break to clear your head and renew your focus. Print a copy of your assignment rather than read it off the computer. It's often easier to read computer text rather than handwritten text, and it helps the learner see their own work through new eyes. Reading your assignment aloud may make it easier to pick out where your sentence doesn't make sense or where it doesn't meet the assessment criteria and or it's not logically structured. Remove information that is not relevant to your assignment. Consider your piece from the perspective of an assessor or an examiner and ask yourself what changes need to be made in order to bring your work up to standard. Spell check your piece. Ensure that reference for all sources cited is present. Always take feedback on board and retain the advice for future work. So now we're ready to edit and proofread the draft. Editing refers to the process of preparing your draft assessment work for submission by making modifications to it. It's important that our best possible work is submitted in order to achieve our best grade. This is where proofreading comes in. This refers to the final stage of editing where your eyes are used not only to spot spelling and grammar errors. When we are writing, our own errors can become oblivious to us, and it is only when we look on our work with a critical eye that we notice them. It may be easier for you to ask a friend to proofread, as they will have fresher eyes and may see what you cannot. Tips for editing. Ensure sentences make sense, that tenses are correct and that sentences flow. Syntax should be easy to understand. Make sure your sentences are well formed and have logical flow. If they are too long, consider breaking them up. Eliminate unnecessary words. Only use words that add meaning to what you're saying. For example, in the sentence, I really think, the word really is not necessary. Hold the reader's attention. Try to keep your readers interested by avoiding long, rambling sentences. Short sentences tend to be more effective in getting to the point quickly and effectively. Remove words or phrases that convey an unintended meaning. When rereading your work, ensure that what you're saying is what you intend to say and remove anything that does not reflect your point. Use a thesaurus. A thesaurus may be your most valuable tool in avoiding the repetition of common words and will help maintain the reader's interest. Eliminate clichés. Using phrases that have been heard too many times can bore the reader. Try and come up with your own metaphors or phrases. Make sure your voice is heard. A very important element in writing an assessment is what you think of what has been said on the topic. Otherwise, your piece can be seen as a collection of information and other people's opinions on the topic. Double check words and facts. Utilise the technology available to you. There are many applications available to assist you with editing, which you should make use of. This will make the editing process easier for you. Incorrect spelling, such as necessary instead of necessary, and develop instead of develop. Incorrect tenses and verbs. She was looked for the keys when it should have been she was looking for the keys. Incorrect grammar. There are many types of food instead of there are many types of food. Incorrect punctuation. I have full stop 3 cousins instead of I have 3 cousins. Typos. You have long hair when the correct form is you have long hair. Extra spaces. He was eating, which is meant to be he is eating. And finally, presenting and submitting. Presenting your work. There may be further things you can do to improve the flow and coherency of your piece. Forus training do provide agreed house style. So the following is our general guidelines. The cover page, this generally includes the module name and code, the title of the assessment, the submission date, and the name of the person submitting and to whom it is being submitted to. The table of contents should include a list of sections with the page numbers. A glossary should be an alphabetical list of terms that will be referred to in the document, along with their explanation. The font should be consistent, ensuring that it is easy to read. A 12-point font is considered standard. Use the same font throughout. Headings and subheadings should use the same font but can be made bold, or significantly larger in size. Headings and subheadings. It can be helpful to use these to indicate where certain information is located, which can help with logic and flow. And tense. It is important to maintain consistency throughout your work with regards to tense. Spacing and margins. Double line spacing makes a document easier to read and allows space for the assessor to include feedback or comments. Alignment. There should be consistency with the alignment of the text either to the left of the page or with the margins or on both the left and right. Bulleting. Bullet points can often aid with highlighting key points or listing items in a text, but ensure that they are used appropriately. For better formatting, use the same style throughout the assignment. Headers and footers. The header is the information at the top margin of the document, while the footer is located in the bottom margin. It is a good idea to put the title of the assessment piece in the header and your name and the date in the footer. Page numbering. It is useful to include page numbers to reference information as well as identify if pages are missing. Submitting your assessment. Your written assessment should be submitted as per the instructions you receive from Forus training. It is essential to submit your work by the deadline, as late submissions will have consequences for you. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish you good luck with your assessment, and I hope you found this presentation helpful in setting out how to work through it step by step.